Hello and welcome. You are listening to Oklahoma Football Talk on the Sooner Spaces. This week we go over last week's matchup versus Iowa State and then Oklahoma versus Texas, the historic Red River Rivalry. We appreciate you listening. Sooner Spaces is live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on X.
All right, I guess we can go ahead and get started. If anyone wants to hop up at any time, just throw a hand up, and I'll try to click on you. Uh, I guess starting out with the Iowa State game, and I don't know, I'm sure all of us will want to move on to the Texas game soon, so and that's fine. But I thought it was impressive. OU giving up some points there at the end, and then second half only allowing 89 yards and no touchdowns. I thought again, much like the Cincinnati game, I thought it was a good confidence boost, especially whenever you come from a year like last year, whenever we struggled having in doing that, getting consistent stops after failed opportunities or blow up plays. I thought the offense obviously looked really good. Dylan Gabriel's playing with a little bit of swagger, which I really like. It's nice to see him kind of. I think as much as he tries not to hear the noise, I think you're only human and you're going to hear a lot of it. And I think that he is playing like he's wanting to prove people wrong, and that only helps us. I hope he continues to do that, and we need him to play really well this weekend coming up for sure. So regardless of what he does or what he done last year and in the past, I think that this year he's shown that he's one of the elite quarterbacks in the Big 12, and in my opinion, one of the better ones in the country as well. And he's going to need to play that way for sure this coming up weekend. I think that one issue continues to be the run game. I'm hoping we can get a couple people on that I've reached out to that would know a little bit about the run game, but if they ever come up, I'll make sure to bring them up as speakers. I think that a lot of that stems, though, in my opinion, and then I'll go to hands, just from there being a real issue with getting any sort of, a lot of the times I feel like our running backs are getting hit behind the line, even Marcus Major, to be fair to him, and then he's having to make people miss, and then he's having to, at that point, continue to try to get yards, and that just makes it really, really difficult. And again, you project to this weekend, and I think 16 of the last 18 Red River rivalry or shootout game winners have have won the rushing battle. And uh, it's and we've averaged about 255 yards. I went back and looked since 2015, whenever post the Bob Stoops era. Every Red River we've won, and I really hope that they find something. I think they will. I think they're holding a lot of their scheme back, especially their zone blocking stuff for Texas, to make sure that they hit them with some things they might not prepare for OU to do. But those are kind of my general thoughts. I don't know. So I'll kind of go to hands. Colton, if you want to go ahead and lead it off, man. I know you had some thoughts on the O line.
Yeah, yeah, I got a few. I'm gonna be quick this week just because there's not gonna be a whole lot that's gonna change from last week to this week. That the changes that we could have already made to the offensive line. Um, kind of being on the negative side, I don't think we're using our hands very well at point of contact in the run game. We're not reaching out, getting hands on guys. And of course, we have Everett in there who's undersized, so we're giving up some size and length there on the interior portion of the line. Everyone was talking about it. We finally saw some pulls this week, some guard tackle pulls, and they looked absolutely atrocious, in my opinion. The timing looked terrible. We had backs running into pulling guards, pulling tackles. We had a play that was a designed quarterback draw that we wrapped the tackle around the center, and the center didn't reach the guy, and our guard didn't reach the end, so they both got the tee off on Gabriel. Just kind of some lazy things there. But like I said, it's do or die time. I mean, we're here, so there's no changes that we're going to make right now that are going to suddenly make us a 200 300 yard rushing offense. I don't think at this point. I think we've got to deal with what we're good at, and I think that's pass protection. I think we've done a really good job in the pass protection side of things. And I think Teddy and Gabe talked about it this week. Is like you can't be great at everything. You kind of we're used to having a really good run game, but I mean right now you kind of just have to play the card you're dealt. And I think right now we're just a very good passing team. And so as long as we can get that going, I think we'll have good success this week. Um, Other than that, I hope and pray that we are working on our pools this week, working on timing in the backfield, giving those guys a little bit more time to hit their blocks so that we can set up behind them. But other than that, I think we played a great game offensively from a passing standpoint. It's just, the thorn in our side still tends to be the running game, and I think that's going to be our issue coming into Texas. But if we can throw the ball, get going early, I think we'll be all right. That's my 2 cents there.
Go ahead, Meese.
Man, what I liked about it was, and this is different from years past, was we shut them out in the second half. Instead of letting them hang around, we pulled away, and adjustments were made, and something we haven't done. Normally, that game would either be a 50 to 45 game, where at the end of the game we're thinking, man, we got to stop them this last possession, or we might lose. And they put up 20, and then that's it. There was adjustments were made, and there wasn't we weren't having ulcers at the end of the game.
Right, and it's like, how many years past have we seen where we start making mistakes and our head starts ducking, and it's almost an expectation for our defense. They know they're going to give up points, right? And with this one, it seems once adjustments are made, they take a sense of pride in their ability to not get scored on. And it's such a mindset shift from what we're used to. Brian, were you about to say something? Or if not, then I'll go to my dad and see what he has to say about the defense in the whole.
No, I was just wanting to again, another week of DG just being DG. I mean, he looked sharp. I mean, without that miscommunication with Jalil on the interception. But, I mean, just his throws have been crisp. They've been on point. The one to Brendan was, I mean, underthrown, of course. But, I mean, that dude is freaking quick. So...
Yeah, if you heard DG after the game, he mentioned on the interview on the ref where he goes, I only started throwing with him about this week, and he goes, you don't realize, you forget how fast he is, and then I'm looking down and he's 40, 60 yards down the field, and Dylan doesn't have he's not going to launch it 70 yards, so that was kind of funny. I think this next week they'll get a lot of that fixed, but I didn't mean to interrupt you, man. I was just gonna put emphasis on your point.
No, you're good, brother. I'm excited to hear what Coach Smith has to say.
Dad, what's up? What do you got?
What's up, man? Good. Man, I've been watching this film, and I kind of, from a coach's aspect, get a little picky, and I shouldn't because they've gotten a lot better. But some of those, I go back to the 2 touchdowns they had where it should have been 2 interceptions by our DBs, and that was just something that they'll get better at. We're just still a little young there. And then up front, when that quarterback in our run game, some of that run game was they just caught us in a blitz, and we didn't have that. We didn't have some of the stuff covered, so our linebackers are out of position to help make plays on some of those long runs is what I was seeing. And then early in the game, when the quarterback had a long run, that was the nose guard. He was in a 2-eye, and he just took the easy route, and it opened up a gap for him to run. And we can't do that against Texas. Those are some things that we can't do and make those mistakes, because the Texas running backs are going to score besides running for about 40 and we catch them. They're a little bit different athlete. But overall, I'm really excited about it. I was talked about last week what they were getting prepared for this week, and you had to always prepare for the run. And even though they threw the ball a little bit on us, but I know they're going to work. They're great coaches, so they're going to work on the little things. Sometimes Stutzman runs the football well, but there's times that he gets himself out of position, and you can see it's just because he's still young. He's going to be something else before it's all said and done. But it's just they're young. Canick's young, and they just get out of position a little bit because they're so anxious to get to the play. And sometimes at linebacker, you have to just almost stand there and wait for the play to develop, and then go running and fit your gap. And that's what I'm seeing from them just a little bit. But other than that, man, I'm pleased with our defense. I'm actually pleased with our offense. It was just awesome to watch everything that unfolded that usually doesn't unfold with Iowa State. And like I said, man, anytime you score 50 and our defense plays like they do, it's what I said when I tweeted out, I said boomer, and I'm in it.
Yeah, that was it. From what I saw on the field, at least, it seemed like, yeah, I don't know what uh, Key Lawrence, he took a weird angle on the trying to get the interception, and it's
He
almost
did.
like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he cut behind it. I don't know what he was looking at. If he
Yeah,
cut in front of you, he intercepted it. The second one was the same way. Bowman's the one that missed it. I don't know. There wasn't any other thing to take him off the read. It took him right to that slant, and he ran into the other defender, and he just whiffed it. I don't know why that happened. He'll see it on film. Both of them are just aching because that happened, because they know those should have been INTs, or at least broke up pass, but that shouldn't have happened. And they'll learn from it every game, every snap. They just get older and older and more seasoned, and that's what we need before we go on this weekend.
Hmm. Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, just kind of touching on what Coach Smith said there. Billy Bowman had admitted to Gabe Eichert, I think, after the game, that he kind of just lost vision on that play. So he just a mental error on that part. And then the Key Lawrence thing, I think he was just out of position and took a bad angle. But I don't know. I feel like defense played really well. Teddy and Gabe kind of talked about it on their podcast that they're pretty sure that Iowa State was scheming us with stuff they hadn't shown all week. Hence, like Kanik being out of position sometimes, and he's young compared to Stutzman, and Stutzman was able to make some of those adjustments a little bit quicker than Kanik was. But I think they responded well after kind of the two big plays. Outside of those, really, there was about 3 plays that Iowa State gave up that was the bulk of their offense. I think we're 2 plays away from a 50-6 game. So, but to Coach Smith's point, can't make those mistakes against Texas. You got to clean that stuff up a little bit. They have the talent to definitely expose that. So, but I'm sure they'll be watching film and correcting all that stuff this week. But I continue to hammer on the defense being the bright spot week in and week out, and hopefully the run game comes around. That's really the only complaint I have so far is we've got to figure out that run game to be able to compete with Texas.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess, does anyone else have any, Mayor, do you have any points you want to make about the game this weekend, or do we just want to move on to Texas? I'm down. I'm good to do whatever.
Just really quick. Yeah, no, one quick thing about this that I was thinking about so much, and I kind of mentioned this a little bit around the Cincinnati game as well. In sports, in business, and everything, mentality is so important when you're behind or you're facing some sort of adversity. And this was even a better showing in comparison to what happened in Cincinnati, but they break 2 huge plays on us. We're playing a very close game, and our team stepped up when it matters the most. And I think when you've experienced that early in the season, where you're busting assignments, you're playing at a level that you shouldn't be playing at against a team that's way worse than you. In general, just the mentality of facing a difficult situation and bouncing back is huge. So that was something that I was just really excited to see, is the team showed some maturity and was able to turn the game completely around in the second half. So I'm super excited. I feel like they were playing fast. I feel like the touchdowns were very simple mistakes that can be fixed on film. But yeah, feeling good going into the Texas game.
Absolutely. And that's a good transition to the Texas game. I can give my thoughts, but what are everyone's thoughts heading in? Let's go areas where what we're watching, I guess, for the game coming up. I guess I'll start with I'm not terribly worried about DG performing well. And I don't think people are crazy for thinking that. I know that's kind of a worry Wurs has, and I'm not saying it's completely unfounded. Obviously, they're a really good team. I just think if you lose on the line of scrimmage, offensive line or defensive line, it doesn't matter if DG brought his A game, if Stutzman and them bring their A games. You got to be able to hold them on the offensive and defensive line. And on the pass game, I'm not too worried about. But whenever if it gets to a point where they know we can't run the ball, at least run it effectively and consistently, I'm wondering how that's going to lead into affecting the pass game, because their safeties can be got. Their corner Watts he's more of a safety. When he goes to the NFL, I bet he changes to a safety. He doesn't really have the speed a corner has, but he's really athletic, and he can be got on the seam routes up the sidelines or fade routes up the sidelines. But if they're able to drop more in the deep zones, I don't know how you're really going to take advantage of that if we can't run the ball. So I think it's more of a yin and yang for me. It's going to be, intermediate throws to soften up that box in the especially the front seven, and then being able to hit on those deep balls as well. Colton, what do you got?
One thing I think that we haven't seen a lot of that I think we might see, just by the way our offensive line has played this year and how I feel like we're in a mismatch on the offensive line, running the ball. So I think we're going to see a little bit more screen game this week than we've seen in the past weeks. Just something to kind of break up that monotony of the drop back, get some over rush if we can, and get some guys downfield blocking. I think that's something that we may see. As far as the rush game, I think we saw a little bit this past week of what we're going to intend to run. I just hope I hope that we're able to execute a little bit better. But I think we've got to be able to run the ball this week at least a little bit. We've got to get the ball moving. I think we've got to run the ball at least for 175 yards to be successful. But then again, we've got Anderson on the outside. We've got weapons. Things can go quick. It's going to be a fun week. I'm excited. I'm worried about the rush, but I think there's some things that we're going to build into it to kind of offset that this year, and I'm hoping that's what happens.
Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
Man, I think their offensive line is what I'm most concerned about. I think, they're massive, right? We're gonna have to get pressure on on the quarterback. I don't know how we're gonna do that. I think they wear us down, towards the end. But that's just my my perspective of it is that is the O line, and that's if we get no pressure, he's gonna pick. I think he can. He's gotten a lot better,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
so we've got to put pressure on them. And if not, I think they'll wear us down.
If we
Well, see, and
go ahead, Ryan.
that's kind of where I'm at. I'm focusing on the trenches in this game, and I brought up DG, but you can't deny DG has played extremely well this year. It's leaps and bounds compared to last year. My concern is when the pressure gets into the pocket, like what's the decision making going to look like? I don't think it's really the concern with DG's ability to make the throw. I think it's more how are the nerves going to affect him, because that game, as we know, those have been even watching it on TV. There's so much nerves that go into that game, and with it being his first time now. On the other hand, he could be some plausible deniability and walk in there and just throw a shootout against him. So I think Jason bringing up Texas O-line, because I think that's an issue too. I think obviously with more depth on the defensive line than last year, we may play them a little tougher. But Texas, I think they've at least got 2 O-linemen that are going to go next year in the draft. Speaking of next year in the draft, Texas has about 10 starters that they're graduating next year. So that doesn't help us for this year, but Texas is going to have a big turnover after this year. And another thing, their safeties, I watched a little bit of that Kansas film, and there was a lot of, I don't know if it's busted coverages, but a lot of getting outran on the back end, 20, 30 yards down the field. And that's what OU has been successful in this year. So I think the run game has to be there. I think they've got to figure it out. I think Colt made a good point about, we've really got to push these people down the field. And if we can do that and establish some bit of a run, I think the pass game is going to be there regardless if we establish a run or not. And I think they're undervaluing our receivers. And if, the ones that have not watched these breakout players the first 5 games.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. All right, go. First, I want to get to a comment that Nick said. He said outside those 2 TDs that should have been picks, game should have been 50-6. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Those 2. Again, I don't know where Lawrence was going. I don't know if he didn't recognize the guy was there or what, because he just went right behind him. But it's 100% correct. Go ahead, Brian.
No, I'm just thinking piggybacking off what the rest of you guys said, it all starts in the trenches. So pressure, both offensive line and defensive line. Just got to get everything, copacetic, make sure everything is just running correctly. But I was Chad, what you were saying earlier about DG having the swagger, I think the whole freaking team has swagger now. So just basically coming through, giving up those two oopsies against Iowa State, if you forgive my French, but, just the way they complimented themselves in the second half, I think the whole team's just got this newfound swagger, and it's going to look pretty cool going into Austin, or Dallas, rather.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is it's from the top down. Whenever your quarterback has that, the other players feel it. And I think Jaden Gibson, if you listen to his interview, he did a really good job talking about the difference in mindset, about how, seeing their quarterback kind of, you saw him talking noise after he scored. And, Iowa State's not the best Iowa State, but they're always hard to beat because of how good their defense is and how unique it is. And putting 50 on them is not an easy task, or you would have seen it done, I think, more than twice in the last, 10 or so years, if we're around that kind of a time. But Jared Tibbs, what's up, man?
Just a couple notes on the defensive line up against Texas's offensive line. I think we have a weapon that we've seen some sparks that we need to make sure we utilize. And that's PJ. PJ's got the speed to wear those tackles out, and I feel like he's gonna have a good game this game, and he has I believe the second most sacks in the team right now behind Stutzman. We don't have a lot of sacks right now. I think it's because a lot of people are doing max protection against us. But I think Ryan Wersch talked about it a minute ago. Texas's safeties aren't fast, and I think we need to utilize Brennan and some of those speedsters on the outside. But
I say you throw to Brennan all day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I worry about the underthrow a little bit that he had to make an adjustment on. Hell of an adjustment by him, but just let those guys on the outside do some work on those guys, and they'll have to honor it. And maybe that opens up the run game a little bit for us. But those are my thoughts. I think PJ will be somebody we can lean in on the defensive line.
Yeah, PJ's going to be huge in my opinion. I have him, and then actually, funny enough, I had Brennan Thompson as a sneaky player of the game award because he's just so fast, man. I just think that could really be a huge weapon for us. Colton, I know you had a hand up, and then it like glitched out, so go ahead, man.
Yeah. What I was going to say is piggyback off Ryan's point is Texas' offensive line is huge, but they're not only huge, they are very, very fast for their positions. For their size and strength, they are a very fast offensive line, and probably one of the best offensive, if not the best offensive line we'll see, until way later into the possible postseason. One thing I did want to get with Chad and ask Chad about, he played the position, is I feel like Gabriel was really good about getting the ball out of his hands as quickly as possible on these short passes. If we don't have those things jumped early in the game, I feel like that's our chance to really set the pace. What do you think, Chad?
Yeah, especially in Levy's system. They go, your scripted plays to begin with, but you want to, especially early on, getting him in rhythm. And a lot of those throws are just rhythm throws, and especially the way Texas plays off. They may make that adjustment where they play tight and they say, we don't want to give you much on first down. And then they get you into a long second and long third and long position, which makes it very difficult. But getting Gabriel, especially in like Ryan was talking about, that environment where you're dealing with a crowd like he is, and for the first time, which I also wonder. I'll get to that in a sec. But to finish what you were asking about is just, getting the timing throws down, because that just you start to build up a confidence, right? You start realizing, all right, they have Texas on their shirt. Who cares? I'm throwing on these guys. I can do this all day. Blah blah. And then you start hitting them over the top. The little pump fakes with the wheel route up the sideline that we love to run, things of that sort. And I think it really does, push, open us up if we can get that rhythm started early to really have a big game scoring at least. One thing I was going to ask, or not ask yet, and then Dad, I'll get to you, and then St. Nick, I'll get to you next. I'm also wondering how Ewers deals with it. I know he played in a game last year, but that was such a weird game to me and I think to everyone else, I don't know if that experience translates like a normal OU Texas. Whenever you're coming into the game and you have a receiver and a tight end that it ends up making more throw attempts than our actual quarterback, I just don't think there was ever that threat of them actually losing, especially after they saw the rest of the TCU game and how we couldn't do anything after Dylan went out that game. Um, and that to me I'm also wondering how he deals with it. And he may do great. Alabama, Ryan Denny's not an easy place to play either, and he did really well there too. But Dad, go ahead.
Well, I was just watching the Kansas-Texas game, and it's 20-14 with 4:28 left in the third, and that's exactly when Kansas fumbled the ball, and that changed the whole game, and that's when Texas went on to win. But they struggled, and Kansas had their second-string quarterback sitting there. And I'll tell you something else about Kansas: one of their linebackers is not very good, and he doesn't fit well, and that's why some of that run game hit up, and they're not the team. They remind me. I don't think they're as good as Iowa State on defense at all, and they gave Texas some problems, and Texas kind of did that with Wyoming. They kind of waller around, the first of the game, and then they pick it up there at the end. And also, I noticed, Texas, they missed a field goal, so they don't have the field goal kicker they've had in the past either. I know we missed one too, but I feel pretty good about him. But yeah, that was a tough game for Texas. The score doesn't reflect that, but it was throughout the whole game. And about the safety play is correct. They let a real long touchdown pass go there. Kansas scored on, and the guy just misread. And I think we can get them on some of the passing, and I think we're going to surprise them on defense. We're coming with some of that pressure, and we're just going to get a little bit better at fitting. And PJ is going to give him a hard time. There was a couple of times he took some bad angles. He won't do that this week. He could have made plays. And then when you're coming off the edge, you've got to be a yard deeper in the outside shoulder of that guy coming to you, or you're going to miss him every time. And we were coming underneath, and the guy got around us in the Iowa State game. So it's just little points, just the little things. And I said it last week. They've got to get better and keep getting better on the little things, and the big things will happen. So I'm kind of encouraged. After I watched all the highlights on the Texas-Kansas game, I'm going, okay, yeah, we can do that. We're better at that position. We're better at there, but it's OU Texas, so you never know how it's going to happen. Turnovers is usually decides the game. That's usually the way it works when they're pretty evenly matched. But that's my take on it.
Go ahead, Saint.
Hey, good day to everybody. I'm going to start with the offensive side. Last year we were able to run 150 yards on them, even though they knew that's all we could do. So even though we're not running the ball as well as we did, say, last year, I think our offense passing prowess is going to open up the run game enough to help us take care of that, to at least get 125 yards. I believe if we can get about a 4-yard average per run, we're gonna win this game on that side. Now, with the receivers, I think that the fact that last week we had 8 receivers with multiple catches, I think they averaged, and I know that was Iowa State, but I'm just trying. My point is we have a lot of good receivers, and I don't think their DBs are going to be able to keep up, especially later in the game. I think they're going to get, their legs are going to get tired. OU's going to have some wide receivers with fresh legs. DG is by far playing the best ball he's played. On the defensive side, it's obvious. And on Texas's offense, their quarterback's not even in the top 15 for efficiency. For scoring and efficiency. Their running game is their game, and with their defense being actually the best side of the ball for them this year, which actually surprises me with the Sarkisian team. But I liked what Coach talked about a second ago about the Kansas quarterback being a backup, and not only was he a backup, but he didn't get the starting reps that week. From what I heard, their starter didn't tell them they couldn't go until Friday. Well, I mean, I would suspect that when you don't get the reps, you're not going to have that good of a game, especially against a team like Texas.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, if that's true, that's kind of, that's bad on Yeah,
Texas.
I mean, you're not going to be able to get much done and prep for much, especially if you're being not getting the
Right.
first.
And they hung with them for nearly 3 quarters. So that leads me to Bama. Okay. What they're doing is they're riding Bama. Everybody is, oh, they beat Bama at Bama, which is a really hard thing to do. I get that. But after week 4, and I didn't see what week 3 was, but week 4, Bama was the 61st ranked offense in scoring capability. Right now, after week 5, they're like 54th or 57th. I forget. So I'm telling you, they got better. So I'm thinking in week 2, they could have been, who knows, 70, 80th in the country in scoring. They have a quarterback that he's a first-year starter this year. His second game is against Texas. He just wasn't ready for that game. And it helped Texas out. I believe that DG is going to be the difference in this game for our offense. Like I said, the wide receiver is going to have the fresh legs. I think our running game is going to be sufficient enough to and open up due to the passing game. I think that Texas's defense is, I believe, I had this discussion with one of their fans this week that you would think that the teams they played, if you look at the rankings of all the offenses they played against, Rice being the top, the rest of them are actually below. Cincinnati's higher than any offense than they played. SMU, they don't like to hear that. Oh, you're going to hang your hat on that. Well, the numbers speak for the numbers, right? So my point is you would think that their defense would have better numbers than what they're showing, and they don't. OU has elite third down conversions on offense and also top 10 for the defense. They struggle on both that, on offense and defense. And on defense, they're not even in the top 50 for stopping offenses on third down. And the big one, and this is the big one for me, is the Eckel number. They have the 85th, they rank 85th in the country in being able to score inside the 40. Think about that. They're not even going to get to the 40. I'm sorry. That's just where I'm thinking. I'm thinking our defense is playing so good this year. They're going to have a hard time getting to the 40. And with the numbers that they put up this year, they don't score inside the 40 very often. They've been scoring on big plays. They ground and pound it, and then they throw deep balls. So I think we're going to get pressure. I think that we're going to get 2 to 3 interceptions in this game, only because I think OU is going to jump out on them. And then I think Texas is going to have to pass more than run. That's going to help us to equalize that run game. And then that's going to give us the additional interceptions.
That was fantastic. That was
All
a
right.
great point about the 40-yard line stat. Wow. Let me go to Mayor. What's up? Or actually, Mayor, let me go to Brian. He's had his hand up for a minute. Go ahead, Brian.
No, I was just wanting to talk about the run game and ask y'all who you guys think we see more of on Saturday, or, I mean, just if it's Tawi or Marcus, or are we at least letting the Sawchuck run? Or I don't know if Barnes is still banged up, but I just wanted to hear y'all's opinion on that one.
Personally, I don't think we see much of Barnes. It sounded like the way Venables talked about it, he still doesn't trust his ability or his cutting ability after his injury, and it's hard to run. I mean, in anything, it's hard to do if you're timid on it. I think what you'll see is a heavy dose of Major, because I think they trust him right now, especially in the pass blocking, and you'll see Sawchuck. And then I wouldn't be surprised if they just go with Tawi when they get close to goal line or when it's a short down and short, just because the guy's a ball. Like, why not use that to your advantage? That's my opinion. I don't know if anyone else has a different one, but that's kind of what I would be thinking. Anyone else have an opinion on that?
I'd agree with that. I think Marcus has seen the most touches. I think it's kind of the trend that's been going. I'd like to see Tawi more, but he's shown some explosiveness and he's hard to bring down. But I think it's Marcus and probably Sawchuck 1 and 2.
And I expect Sawchuck to be better this game for sure. He was rusty. Came off. He hadn't really gotten. That's the most snaps he's gotten in a game all year. And I think conditioning wise and just being able to trust your hamstring and his whatever other injury he was dealing with, I think goes a long way after just getting at least a half in with Iowa State. So go ahead, Mayor.
Back to what your pops was saying. I believe that's who was speaking. The thing about Kansas and Wyoming sticking around really late against Texas is interesting because when it starts to come to the fourth quarter, one of the most important pieces of getting a win is your depth, right? So one thing that we know for a fact is that we have much deeper depth compared to Kansas and Wyoming. And I watched the Kansas game. I mean, Bean absolutely missed like wide open touchdowns down the field, which is one of DG's strengths. And I know we keep hearing about this Brandon Thompson like underthrow and like he was so much faster. A lot of that was just timing as well, right? He just needed to release that a second earlier. But one of our biggest threats is down the field. I think Nick is going to absolutely eat this weekend. I think he's going to be getting a lot of downfield passes. I think Jaden Gibson is probably going to have a couple jump balls, a big showing there too. I think a lot of those guys are going to really stand out. But the speed that we have with Brennan, and also Andrell, like we have the speed on the ends there. It's super exciting. And then I'm actually really curious to see how good Brennan actually is, because if you think about the fact that the guy hasn't really played all year, I think he suited up against Cincy but didn't really get in. This guy came off like hadn't played all year, and then they were immediately creating plays for him. So I just have to imagine his ceiling is super high, and in practice he must be doing some amazing things. The last piece I'll share really quick is this is also just going to come down to the game plan, and I was looking back at Venables' team. I know he's a defensive coordinator, obviously at Clemson, but like I think it was 2018, 2016, something. I mean, they hadn't played anyone all year at all. People were saying they were just going to get crushed in the playoffs. But it really just comes down to that game plan, because my biggest concern is we haven't had the competition this year, but the same thing happened with Clemson. And when they played a better team, I believe it was Bama, I mean, the game plan was just flawless. So, yeah, super excited about this Texas game.
Yeah, same, man. General, good to see you, dude.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, no, to your point about Thompson, you can't deny that kind of speed, right? And he's shown ball skills coming back and getting that pass by Dylan. Dylan's gonna have to get that out earlier. It would have been a touchdown. I just think, I think sometimes it's still shocking how fast some of those players are. I have personal stories for it, but I won't bore y'all with those. House Savida, go ahead, man. I see your hand.
Hey, man, appreciate you. Hey, I just wanted to say I'm going to kind of touch back on your point that you made too, Chad, about Quinn Ewers and going into a 49-0 game last year and not really, I mean, you don't get much out of that as a player going into the next season. I think that is a phenomenal point. I absolutely love that. I think that we're going to see more of a Tyree Walker, more of a Gavin Sawchuk kind of week this week, because I think that this game is going to be won or lost in the trenches. I think that's ultimately what it's going to come down to. I see a game like a 7-point game for OU winning in this one. Sawchuk is going to get the most carries in this game. I think that last week was kind of like his little primer to get him ready for this game. And I think that what he did show how many touches did he get? Was it like 10 to 11 touches? I could be a little off on that. But coming into this game, we're going to need a Sawchuk to play big. We're going to need Drake Stoops to catch those short intermediate passes and probably break one here and there. We're going to need our offensive line to be great on pass protection, because if we can do all of those things, guys, that's going to create a W for Oklahoma. And again, I agree. The point was made earlier. This is the best quarterback that Texas has faced all season, bar none. It's not even close. And this is absolutely the best team that Texas has faced all season. I've said it to many people. We can pull up into Tuscaloosa and beat this Bama team this year. So to me, it was impressive, yes. But Oklahoma, we're coming. And the Red River, we're going to win it this week. Trust and believe me on that one.
Man, I love it, dude. I don't disagree with you at all. At all. Go ahead, Ryan. My bad.
Oh, just giving a hand clap to the whole house.
I want to run through a wall right now. Go ahead, General.
Man,
good to see you, man.
Man, it's sorry, I was in a podcast that I could be on right at 8, but can you feel it? Like,
yeah.
Can you feel it this week? I can feel it right now. I can't. I'm amped. I want to go. I want to be out there right now. I want it to be Saturday. I'm probably more amped than I usually am on a Tuesday night. Let's just put it that way. I love this game for many, many, many reasons. You can throw stats out the window for this game. Like, stats don't mean a damn thing. It's all about emotions. Emotions drive this game. And I can tell you this right now, as long as they can keep those under control, we're going to win this game. Like, this team, for the most part, all the players that have been there, that were there last year, they've had this on their radar for an entire year. That 49-0 sticks in their crawl. I can promise you that. No one likes to lose like that, and the ones that are still there had to sit through that for an entire year. And as long as they don't overdo it with the emotions, they're going to be just fine. I know I said stats don't matter, but I think that this is probably, you said that this is, we're the best team that they've played all year. It's vice versa. They're the best team that we've played all year. So, it's the same way, goes both ways. The stats, believe it or not, are extremely close in many, many, many categories. Hell, I think even time of possession is like 8 seconds apart in time of possession on average between the first 5 weeks. So we're leading in majority of categories, other than rushing, right? So if we can run the ball effectively, we're going to win this game, like, hands down. If we're out rushing Texas, I don't see a world where Texas wins this game if we're out rushing them. So let's hope that happens. My prediction, I don't give them very often, but I think it's going to be more defensive. But it is going to be, I think, 21-20. I think OU takes it 21-20.
I love that. Something I wanted to point out too, and I think Paul even touched on this earlier, is if you look at that Kansas game in the first half, you look at that Wyoming game in the first half, think about if that reflects into the Red River this weekend, because if they come out, pretty flat, OU's going to jump on them early, and it's all about momentum in this game. So if we get out early, because we've been coming out of the gates pretty hot in the first couple quarters. And if we drive that momentum all the way into the fourth, I mean, it could get ugly for Texas. Again, it all comes down to how the O-line blocks. If we can let DG at least get 3 seconds, 4 seconds, he'll hit those shots downfield. And like JT had mentioned, I mentioned earlier, those safeties are not going to be able to keep up with Brendan Thompson. I say you throw it to Brendan Thompson 4 times at least. Just throw it to him. Throw downfield.
I don't hate that, man. You got to take advantage of his speed. It's just because you got to worry about it. They're going to get him, like Mayor was saying, man. They're going to get him the ball. There's just no way that they don't. Jared, what's up?
Just this is something that I've been trying to rationally come across to some Texas fans on X, and I know that Texas fans on X are horrible football fans and are kind of casuals, but Oklahoma is not going to be a team that you want to be a second half team against. That's just, I don't know. You're not going to be able to just hang around for 2.5, 3 quarters and expect to come away with a win. And Chad was probably cracking up at my interaction with some of those fans earlier today, but Oklahoma's not going to lay down and let you score 21 points in the fourth quarter. They haven't shown that at all. The most they've given up in a half is 20 points. So, I mean, there's just some things that I've seen, and it's just concerning for me to watch as a football fan on the Texas side of things. And, the final score looks great after it's all said and done, a 31-10 win against Wyoming. But if you look at that game, you're tied 10-10 at home against Wyoming with a backup quarterback in. There shouldn't have been. If Texas is as elite as what the national media is portraying them to be, there's no reason that they shouldn't have been up on those guys 31-0 at half, and there's just some, I don't know. I feel like they come out a little flat, and I don't know. I've seen some things that are concerning for me. I think they rely too much on the home run ball from a passing standpoint. They showed some some capability of throwing little 15-yard routes against Kansas, but I think that boiled down to, and that was after that fourth down play, which I thought was just wild that Kansas tried to go for on 4th and 1 inside their own 40. But I don't know. That's just my opinion. I don't know. There's just some concerning things I've seen from Texas in being able to put together a full game from the start. I mean, yeah, they finished strong, but how well are you going to be able to do that against a good team? And they did that against Alabama. Like Alabama hung around with them the whole game, and then Jalen Milroe just kind of, and that offensive line for Alabama just kind of let that thing fall apart.
I talked about this earlier, like in the morning. Whenever, if Alabama had a quarterback that could throw the fade route up the sideline, they would have won by a couple touchdowns, I think, because that quarterback would be competent enough not to throw it in a triple coverage on a hitch route that gives them the ball at the 30-yard line, and then he would know not to throw it late over the middle on a crossing route, in which the Texas receiver returns it to his own 5 or to Bama's 5. So you had 14 points there, and they only had to go 35 yards, or 10 points. I guess they got a field goal in the first one, but you only had to go 35 yards, and Texas ends up winning by about, I don't remember the exact score, but around 10, I think, or at least if not 10, then less than that, and those points wouldn't have been given. And then there are shots that you can take and that are open. You just got to be able to hit them, and they've just, for whatever reason, Bama just doesn't have a quarterback, it seems right now, that can do that. For me, my opinion on what I think, it's going to come down for me, being able to either show we can run the ball early, or show that we can stop the run early. I was going to ask my dad this too. Dad, if you were Venables and you had to scheme this up, would you sell out more to stop the run and just take that half of the scheme out, and also by doing that, bring blitzes that gets pressure on Ewers? Because with any of those quarterbacks, like Jason, like Meese was saying earlier, he'll pick you apart, as will Gabriel, if you just let him sit back there and do. I mean, that's what they've done that for years. What are you doing if you're scheming that up? Are you trying to bring a lot of pressure and a lot of to fill in running gaps, or kind of what are you thinking?
Well, yeah, you're gonna have to get pressure on him. You can't let him sit there and throw. I mean, you got to obviously got to stop their run, because I think that's their bread and butter, and then they hit you with the long ball. But yeah, I think we have some really good pressures, and I think they're really hard to defend. And they'll, and as long as we get a little bit better at what we're doing when we're pressuring, and our linemen are staying where they're supposed to stay and not take the easy route to stay in their gap, we're going to give him. He's going to have some problems, because he's going to have to throw off schedule, and that's what you want. And even if you don't get to him, as long as he knows pressure's coming, because he's watched all the games, so he knows it's coming. So it's going to have to get out a little bit quicker. So yeah, I'm not stopping the pressure stuff. That's our bread and butter. That's what Venables does anyway, and that's what I love to do, because you got to get that quarterback to thinking, I've got to get the ball out, or I'm going to get sacked. And that creates turnovers. And somebody mentioned it, we might get 2 or 3. That's going to be the difference in the game, guys. It's going to be turnovers. And when you're evenly matched, which I think we pretty kind of are, it's going to be a turnover deal. And whoever wins that battle is going to win the game in field position. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's the truth. And we've seen it in the past where the turnovers has made the difference. And that's where it's going to be. And we've been able to create those. So I'm pretty encouraged about where we're at on defense. But yeah, we're going to get after them.
Yeah, it seems to me like they're pretty. I just get the feeling that the defense is excited to just start. They're so much better at open field tackling. Seeing Reggie Pearson break down 4 yards from the ball carrier and not just fly past him was cathartic.
Isn't that the biggest difference?
Gentry Williams too.
Yeah, that's the biggest difference from last year. They'd make those passes and they just keep running. We're making the tackles, and it's a big difference. It's awesome to watch.
That is one beautiful sight to see, those open field
it'll be
tackles.
interesting to see if those receivers because I think Gabe and Lehman were talking about it on their podcast from Sunday, that Texas likes to throw those little out screens, the wide receiver screens. And it'll be interesting to see how well they block against Reggie Pearson and Gentry Williams. Not to mention
something else though.
coming up.
Oh, go ahead, Tibbs.
I was just saying Peyton Bowen coming up from that safety spot. They're going to have a hard time defending that or blocking that little wide receiver screen they like to run.
Yeah, and something else I'm really looking to see, because I think when we watch these games in the past, first 5 minutes you get kind of other than 2021, which I was at that game and it was incredible. But the first 5 minutes you get an idea of kind of how the game's going to go, and it does. There's momentum swings, but I'm interested to see how Ewers responds if there is a lot of pressure. Because remember last year when he was playing Oklahoma State, somehow they were getting to him, and he threw, 3 interceptions? And so I don't think they've played anybody this year that has really been able to get past that O-line. So that's one thing to watch too. How does Ewers respond to the pressure? What does the decision-making look like at that point? Because and it's like what General had mentioned. They haven't played a defense like this. We haven't played anybody like them, and they haven't played anybody like us. So we'll see how Ewers responds to some pressure, because I think it's coming.
I agree. I think Venables is going to be throwing stuff at him, man, that you don't see until you play a Venables defense.
Yeah, and if you want a prop bet, Peyton Bowen's getting his first interception of the year.
Yo, I don't like
Calling
that.
it.
This is not financial advice.
No, you wouldn't want to take mine anyways.
St. Nick, I see your hand, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, on the Venables topic, I want to remind everybody that before the season ever started, he wasn't talking to the camera. He was talking to his players, the guys that he's responsible for, the guys that he knows that he has to be strategic in how he addresses what the year could be for them, right? He's not going to give them false goals and ideas and then them fall short and then him lose his team, right? So I want to remind you guys what he told the team. He told the team that this team has a chance to be the championship caliber team he believes they can be. Now that leads me to his presser today. In his presser today, I don't know if you guys read body language or not, but he had extreme positive body language. He had an enormous smile on his face when he says, yes, Texas is a good team, and he smiles real big. And he says, but I like our chances. I'm telling you, OU's going to get this win. I believe Venables knows that. You got to remember, Venables has been to 8 national title games. He knows what a championship team looks like that he's coached, and he knows what the opponent's national title team looks like. Texas is not there. I'm just saying that I believe Oklahoma is going to beat Texas. It's more than capable. Now, by the end of the season, we'll see where we're at. I think we're good enough to beat Texas this week. I think Venables knows that, and I think that by the end of the season, we'll just have to see where we're at.
Yeah, I do. I think he has. I think he knows that. I think he knows too. We really haven't put a full game together as a team, and whenever we do that, it's going to be something special. Cliff, man, go ahead. I don't know if I've seen you in here before, man. Nice to meet you.
This just popped up on my TL after I got out of cap space. I just wanted to tell the OU fans, if y'all like thinking about this game and any good quarterback or any big game, I always think back to the video. I don't know if y'all seen it. It was Tua Tagovailoa talking about playing Venables defense. I don't know what year it was in the national. He talked literally seeing ghost. Basically, what he said, like he's never played a defense like that in his life. And I know he has something special for us. It's just not. It's not in our DNA. Like he's just like I know, and I've seen this quarterback play. I mean, Quinn Ewers is the quarterback I'm talking about. I've seen him get flustered with the weakest of teams before, at times. Like like we have the bodies to do it. We have the continuity. We've been getting better each game with the pressures. I don't know if fans have really been noticing. Like each game, we've been getting to the quarterback more and more. It's like each game. And Quinn, he's shown he can run a little bit, but I think he might be the slowest quarterback we played so far. That's just my opinion. Might be. I'm trying to think. Maybe Preston Stone. I don't know.
No, Preston Snow can move a little bit. He actually is pretty athletic.
Yeah, we played all running quarterbacks basically. I felt like so far.
Yeah, Preston Stone was high 4-star coming out of high
Mm-hmm.
school.
Yeah, he was good.
Hey,
He's top 10 in EPA.
yeah. Let me go. House Savati, go ahead, man.
Hey, something that's not being mentioned enough. I mean, possibly no Jatavion Sanders in this game. That's always his safety blanket too. I mean, if that guy's not playing in this game, that is a huge loss for Texas. Also, too, I think Ryan
He's not
Watts is
playing.
questionable. He's not playing.
Ryan
That's a
Watts is my
problem.
friend. He's my partner.
That,
I texted him on
that-
Instagram. He said he messed his hamstring up, and
man,
he's always had he hurt that hamstring before, so this is a recurring thing. I don't think he's playing.
I hate that for him. I really do. But in this game, that is going to hurt them. Those two players are difference maker players,
Yep.
especially Jatavion Sanders. I mean, not having that guy, I mean, that just changes the whole dynamic of what Texas wants
Yep.
to
He's
do.
the first read. He's like the second tight end in the country.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Like,
Other than Brock
other than
Bowers,
Brock
ain't
Bowers, and
nobody
Brock
said
Bowers
they
is a
better.
guy. Like if Brock Bowers was on this draft class with him, he'd be the first tight end selected.
Yeah,
for sure.
Jatavion Sanders would be a big loss. I tend to think Jatavion will play. I think it was just a little ankle tweak. Keeping him out of this
We'll
game
see.
would be. I just
If
don't
he
see
does,
it.
though,
We'll see.
what Sanders are we getting, though? It's not
Yeah, it's only
Yeah,
100%,
gonna
no
because
help.
matter
you
which
know
way you look at it.
it was reported that it was swollen like the next day, pretty bad.
It's
So,
a high
it's
ankle
probably a high
sprain, man.
ankle sprain, and I mean, he could try. We'll see, but we'll see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I bet he'll try to warm up and do the little DG thing.
yeah, yeah.
them cuts feel a little different on a sprained ankle. Just
And
saying.
he a big guy, so we'll
All
see.
right.
Well, I hope he. Be honest with you though, the OU fan of me, I hope he does play. I don't want no excuses from Texas when we whoop this ass.
I could care less. They repped on us with a tight end playing quarterback
Yeah.
for 365 days.
Hey, go
Hey,
ahead,
JT, go ahead,
JT.
man.
No, yeah, I was looking up some stat lines on sacks. DG has been sacked 4 times this year. Quinn Ewers has been sacked 9 times. Granted, the brunt of those come from the Alabama game, but it's not like he hasn't been protected the whole time. So I think there's some opportunities. I know we talk about Texas's size, but I think somebody talked about, maybe it was, I could be confusing who he was talking about, but I think Gabe Eichert was talking about the left tackle it was either for Texas or Alabama. He may have been talking about Alabama, so don't quote me on it. But he said he looked like he moved pretty slow.
Are you talking about
So
Kelvin Banks? He said Eichert said he had his worst game last game.
yeah, so I mean, I think we have a potential to expose some things, especially getting pressure on Quinn Ewers. Just seeing that stat line that he's been sacked more than DG is promising to me.
Yeah.
Hey, Coach Smith, I was going to bring you up real quick. I don't know if we've talked about it yet, but what kind of defense, what different schemes can you see Venables running on Saturday? Give us some insight on that.
Well, he's not running anything any different. He's just going to get better at what he's doing. He may have a few things in his toolbox that he hadn't shown yet that specifically disrupts yours, the quarterback. But other than that, I mean, he's got a lot of stuff in. And the thing that he did a little different with PJ was this, and I call it a cut stunt, but it's a great stunt, run stopper, and they're going to get a little bit more of that, but they're going to do the same stuff. I'm telling you, they're just working on fits, when we blitz, where we fitting. Defensive line can't take the easy way out. They've got to stay in their gaps. I've said it before again, and that's what's happened with some of these big runs. We just get a little out of position. It happens. I know that, but as a coach, I see it, and I know they're working on it, every day. But they're not changing anything. They may have a little wrinkle here or there, just like on our offense. They're going to have a little wrinkle there, here, and there. But we're going to win with what we bring in, and I'm telling you, we're going to get after them, and I'm like a lot of you guys. I feel a lot better. I'm watching the Wyoming game right now on my computer, and I'm feeling better and better as I watch these games. That we have a chance to really make a statement this Saturday night, and it's going to be a fun game to watch.
Do you anticipate us switching more of the D linemen out more than we have, or will they keep more D linemen in for longer in the drive? what does that look like dealing with the stronger offensive line?
Well, that could happen. It just depends on the drives that we get. Is it time possession? Those type of things. And a lot of times when you get those linemen in is when they make a change on offense, and it gives us time to make a change and run on and run off the field. We're so fortunate to have the depth that we haven't had in the past. These other teams that they're beating at the end, somebody mentioned it earlier in here, is that these other teams don't have that depth, and they just get wore out at the end of the game, and Texas just takes over, and that's what's happening. They're not going to do that against us. I know I sound like a recorder, guys. It's going to come down to turnovers, and I think we have a great opportunity to get those turnovers. What we do on defense.
Well, and look at look at what we're doing in terms of just total numbers. Whenever we had a little over 20 last year, and this year we already have 12 through 5 games. It's completely different. Don't want to stay on my dad too long, but he's one of the few people I know that have coached in the actual OU Texas game. Dad, can you speak a little bit just what that's like, and kind of how it's different from just coaching in Owen Field normally?
It's unbelievable to be on the 50-yard line and you see half and half, and the hair on the back of your neck will stick up, and when you hear everything leaving, especially when you're going in to after the warm-ups. Where it's just it's I can't express how different it is in that game of all the games I've been to, but that was one of them. And the fans sit low to the stadium, low to the field, and I just it's just man, like I said, the hair on the back of your neck just stands up. There's no feeling like it, and it was a great experience that I'll never forget.
Yeah, that would be insane to be able to experience that in real life.
And you can feel the energy already. It's Tuesday going into Saturday, but this really feels like early 2000s OU Texas type meeting. And I've looked at some models, and they've got mostly everyone outside of AP has OU within the top 10.
Right. Go ahead, Meese.
It's just different. It's just different, man. Like it's been a long time since we've been excited about the defense, right? I mean, you just mentioned it early 2000s, but it's like we've never really gone into this game going, man, we may shut them down, right? Or we have a chance of creating turnovers. We hadn't been able to do that in the past. It's like, man, we better score 65 or 70 if we want to come out on top.
Well, and I'll say that I don't know if we have a chance of shutting them down. I think that, but like you're saying, it's just to go into a game knowing that if our offense doesn't score that first drive, and knowing that we still have a chance to, knowing the game's not over at that point it's massive, and it just makes you play more free on offense as well, I think. Go ahead, Jared.
Real quick stat line: OU currently holds the better turnover margin.
What is it?
Turnover ratio on ESPN is 8 for OU. Texas is at 4.
And I believe OU has the highest point differential, and we're at I think 38. And it's not like our strength of schedule it's not the best, but we played some teams that have good defensive lines like Cincinnati, and just good schemes like Iowa State. So I think that a lot of people talking about it's funny that
this space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
It's like a double-sided coin. On one hand, it's your schedule is so easy. Don't be excited about that. But on the other, it's like, yeah, it's easy, but it's easier. But when you play teams you're better than, you expect to beat them like we're beating them. And I'm one of the believers that says, or that believes, Levy was trying to establish a run against SMU, I think, and I think he got too stubborn and did it for too long. When he opened up the playbook again, you saw DG then back-to-back drives go right down the field and score. So that's kind of my opinion on that. Sorry to interrupt you if I did there.
No, you're good. I think that's like it's kind of like he says, double-sided coin, double-edged sword, whatever euphemism you want to use. But it's like, okay, yeah, our strength of schedule isn't great, and it's Texas likes to throw out that Bama win, and that I'm not taking away anything from that win. That was a great win to go into Tuscaloosa and win that game. But it's not like the other 4 games that they've won have been against these stellar teams. I mean, Kansas was okay, but it was like it sounded like it was a game time decision on Jalen Daniels almost for him to not play. And we're looking at them now facing 3 backup quarterbacks. One quarterback played his very first game against Texas. I believe it was
second game of the year too. That matters.
Yeah. I mean, like that plays into how confident a team is going to feel going into any game. It doesn't matter if it's a JV game or whatever. Like if your backup quarterback is playing, it's going to affect some of the outcomes of that game on both sides of the ball. And so for me, I don't know. I think OU's taking care of business. They're doing what they're supposed to. They're not having to do it late like Texas, and that's kind of what I keep falling back on is that Texas is kind of letting these teams hang around that they should be beating pretty handily.
Right. Well, I went and looked at their first half scoring just because I was bored at 6 a.m. this morning, and they scored 16 in the first half against Rice, 13 in the first half against Bama, 10 against Wyoming, 28 against Baylor, and then 13 against Kansas. So they're averaging about 16 in the first half each game. I don't think, and the Baylor one is just, that's such an outlier. If you take that out, they're around 12 points a game, or 13 in the first half. I don't think that's where you want to be if you're Texas going into this game, because I think we're better in every defense that they played, even including Bama. I just do. I think we're deeper, and I think with scheme wise and understanding, we have a better scheme for what Texas does than any team they played. That obviously busts happen. They're human. I mean, they're going to make mistakes. There's going to be big plays by Texas, but our ability to bounce back has been huge, and I hope they build on that. Go ahead, Tattoo. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too, man. I don't know if it's been said or not, but did you guys say that Bean he got to start like at the hotel room right before the game? Like it ain't
That's
like
wild.
he got to prepare at all. The team didn't get to prepare with Bean before the Texas game. So
If I'm a coach, man,
Kansas.
I'm angry. I'm mad at that.
That's a weird decision by Leipold. And Leipold,
It wasn't Leipold's decision.
Well,
was.
I think what I'd heard, and it may have been on the Oklahoma Breakdown podcast, was like Leipold was just kind of saying, "Oh, it was his back," which is something that he's been dealing with that's reoccurring. But I don't know. I feel like you would have had that figured out before.
Said he was getting ready at the hotel room, and either he scratched himself or medical staff scratched him and told Leipold that he's done.
That is insane.
Yeah, it happened Friday night. That's what I was saying earlier. It happened Friday, and so the backup that game had literally no first team snaps that week.
Yeah,
you know he didn't going against Texas. They would have given it all to the starter.
I'm not saying it's like us last year, but we thought, obviously with Dylan, being hurt, do we get a bye week before Texas or no?
I don't think so, because when he got injured, he remember, because that was around when the Tua thing happened too, and he had to sit out because there was like a 10, 14-day minimum.
Yeah. So we really didn't have it. It had like a week to get ready for Texas. So,
and and like last year was so misleading, I think too, because your players see the quarterback that's going into the game with them, and it's hard to have a lot of belief, I think, whenever you're seeing kind of the inabilities or the deficiencies on that Bevel had, and
and they knew before we did.
Right, and then you go out and people forget, it was 7-0 at the end of the first quarter. It's not like it was 35-0 right off the bat. It was still a game, and then we go down and we get the fake punt or fake field goal, and then we fumble it, and on our going in as well later in the game, and it's just we did a lot, although we weren't set up to win that game last year very well, but we did a lot that still hurt ourselves on top of that. And then, you just get deflated after being out with Gabriel and not having much on the offensive side. It makes it really, really tough. And I think this year they have such a better mindset and so much more confidence going into the game.
Yeah, like obviously we lost last year, and take it for what it is, right? We didn't play everybody, but I feel like this week the coaches are just going to say, they're going to say obviously what they need to say for coaching wise, but it's going to be everything else 49-0. The coach is saying where it's bulletin board material where you're just sick of it, and the only way to fix that to go out to beat their ass. So.
And I was listening to Stoya and Radesovic, and apparently they have that case where the gold hat goes. It sits right outside. That sits in the Switzer Center, and they're walking back by that every day, and it's just empty. And hopefully that serves as some more motivation for them. I don't know. You know, obviously they're going to still have to play a really good game. OU is, but I think they have it, man. I think a lot of people that like I said earlier, I was listening to this Texas podcast trying to get a feel for how they think about the OU team, and admittedly it's just only one podcast, but just the confidence. And one of them, it was funny because he goes, I haven't really watched many OU games, man, but I just got a feeling it's going to be an easy game for us. We're just going to be able to run the ball right up their throats, man, and it's going to be an easy game. And I'm just thinking, man, I hope that team feels that way. Because I really do. I think until I see, Texas has played well. They've done, well enough. But, until I see them go into a game where they're expected to do well, where Quinn Ewers is expected to play like a Heisman candidate, and he does it, I'm just and against a good and or full strength team across the field that is of equal talent to them, then I still have doubts. And we talked about it earlier, but you look at the quarterbacks Texas played. It was they got JT Daniels. He's a 3-time transfer. You play Bama's worst quarterback in 15 years. Wyoming's backup. You play Baylor's backup, and you play KU's backup. So it's not like they've had to prove themselves against the top talent for even those teams that they played against in most cases. But in the other starter they played was Rice's starter. So I'm just excited to kind of see them. I hope we come out and we do some stuff that makes them think, oh crap, these guys are not this team from last year, and I think we will for sure.
Well, when you look at it, we played Cincy away. They played Baylor away. We played Iowa State at home. They played Kansas with the backup, who noticed he was playing quarterback at 12 hours before kickoff at home. So outside of Bama, it's basically the same competition. I would argue SMU would beat Rice and Wyoming.
Yeah, I think they would.
Wyoming's best win. This was a stat I tried to point out to Texas fans earlier, but they weren't hearing it.
No, I don't know if they'd beat South Alabama, but
who was it? Their best win was App State, who is 3-2. Wyoming's best win, and so I guess you could make an argument that it was Texas Tech, but Tech I don't think is that great. I feel like App State played North Carolina pretty well in that game, but I'm with you, whereas I think outside of Bama, they're it's pretty equal competition level wise.
We've got some new listeners in here, so if you want to speak, just request. It's a free mic tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited to kind of see it getting going. Let me ask y'all if you're worried about OU in one spot. What spot is that? Are you most concerned for? And then we'll do Texas too. I'm just curious what everyone thinks.
I think if we get some good punts, rather than Shanks, I feel like if obviously if we had to punt, that we have to just depending on what the wind's going to be, because there's going to be about a 30 degree difference for most of the game. I think it's going to be 71 with a high. We're going to be kicking off at 11, so the air's going to be a little denser. So
I'm wondering too. I wonder how the wind's going to affect everything too. I haven't been at that stadium in a while. Does it? I don't know how much it gets down into the actual playing field, but man, I'm excited to see him go.
If you were to say Brendan Thompson has 5 catches over and under, what do you think?
It depends. Are you talking about legitimate catches or those little tosses they do that technically count as a pass and a catch? But legitimate catches, I think. I'd probably go.
Well, they utilize them more than they have all year going against Texas.
Yeah, I think so. I think you have to. It's just that speed you can't coach, and you can't really, no matter how good your technique is and prep, you can't. He's a legit low 4.31 guy. That's insane.
And I'm with Mayer. He mentioned Nick Anderson having a big game. I bet Nick Anderson has a great game on Saturday. He's poised for it.
I think Jaden Gibson showed real good potential as well. That that catch he had on that 4th and 7 play was an absolute man of a
Dude,
play.
I'm so proud for Jaden Gibson. Like, I don't know him, I never said a word to him, but just looking as a fan, dude, from dealing what he dealt with last year with the drops, and you hear his interviews or hear him talk, and he's so positive. He always has this outlook of, I need to get better, I need to do this, and you saw Gabriel too after the game. If you watch the video, they asked him about the Gibson play, and he just smiles. He's just like, man, I love that kid and how hard he works, and he's gone from having the drop at TCU to being a guy who's made, I mean, I don't know one catch he has this year that wasn't contested and difficult, and he's caught all of them. The touchdown pass from Arnold, the jump ball that earlier in the year he got from Gabriel, the touchdown he scored where he this last weekend against Iowa State. I mean, each week he's just continuing to make a play. Hopefully we can do that too. Go ahead, Mies.
But you got to think, Gibson came in with Evers, right? Evers transfers out. He's not getting any touches. His confidence level's down. I think it's just a matter of him, trusting his coaching staff and gaining that confidence that, you know, again, he coming here with a friend. I think that had a lot to do with his performance last year. Just basically confidence in it, and I think it's taken some looking in the mirror and basically manning up and just saying, hey, I'm a lot better than what I've shown.
Yeah, and he's done it. What do y'all think Nick Anderson has? I mean, they're going to have to target him again. He's been pretty. I wonder if the Andersons have any more siblings they want to send to OU, by the way, because they're pretty much 2 for 2 so far.
That's some good genes.
Yeah, I mean, just freaks. I think Nick Anderson's going to be he reminds me kind of like another Mims almost. You good at making, he's really really fast, got size. I guess Mims wasn't as tall as Anderson was, but
I was gonna say he kind of reminds me of Kenny Stills.
yeah,
a
that
little
might be a
bit.
better comparison. That might be a better comparison. Um, I think that, and what's so good about their size is Gabriel can trust more just throwing it up to him and letting him make plays, because you're gonna have to attack Texas where they're weakest, and that is at the safety and corner position, and get the ball to the edges. They're still gonna be good enough, they're still gonna have good athletes out there, especially laterally, but you continue to be able to work the quick outs and those timing throws. They could get something started on offense, and then that just helps our defense even more because more breaks, more time to scheme. What do y'all think, Venables? He's so much more involved on the defensive side of the ball, and I think the Ted Roof hire last year confused me until you hear him and some of the people around the football team talk about how much better he is. That he shows up, to their press conference on time and to his coach's show, and he shows up to his media obligations. And when you look at Roof's resume, he's been a head coach and a coach at so many places. I think more so with Roof than calling the plays was there, kind of as a shoulder to lean on for him. Obviously, he could call Bob and Barry and them, but you want to have your own, group that you're with, and I think Ted's helped him, adapt to that leader that role as a head coach. And I think now that he kind of knows what he wants to do, he even when the offense is on the field, he's on the sideline, drawing up on the whiteboard, getting the defense ready, more and more. And I think that's just going to continue to get better as the year goes on. Like Ryan said, guys, if any of y'all, we got some new listeners. If anyone wants to talk, just request. We'll try to get you up if we can.
Yeah, and just to recap, because I know we have a bunch of new listeners, we're kind of some things we've discussed that we're looking at how Dylan Gabriel handles the pressure from the Texas D line, how our O line is going to hold off. And because if he does get 3 to 4 seconds, we know Gabriel's going to hit the wide receiver on stride as he has all year. We're looking at how Ewers handles our defensive depth up front and how their O-line handles the pressure with how many people we have to switch in and out, see if that can uphold. What are some other things we've discussed just to fill people in?
That's pretty much spot on with what we've gone over so far. We went over the Iowa State game, so if anyone wants to bring something like that up, that'll work too. But yeah, by the way, they keep bringing up, and someone made a comment here that's really true. It's they bring up that one time we got beat last year 49-0, but if you look at the 10 worst blowouts in OU Texas history, 9 of them OU was the winner. So, it's not like blowouts happen. And, especially whenever, like we talked about last year with the deficiencies at the quarterback position, those are gonna happen. It's just I'm hoping that is still in the back of their minds, that they think we can't improve that much over a year, and that they're still overlooking us a little bit, because I think there's a little bit of that going
And I
on.
think in this game, we've talked and we've heard Venables talk a lot about culture and how that matters and how you prepare for these type of games. And I think the way Venables has established that locker room, where he is, the relationships he's built with our men, it's poised for this type of game. With so many emotions, nerves, the fans feel it, coaches feel it. Coach Smith's coached in it. He's already kind of elaborated on what that feels like. We're prepared to walk in. Now, again, last year we were not prepared. We had a tight end at quarterback. But this year with a complete team, and Chad, you brought it up earlier, we haven't really played a complete game. We haven't had to. So what does that look like in the fourth quarter when you're tied, you're neck and neck? How do we respond? And I think just, the hard work that we've seen these guys put in, I would put my money on OU, the culture that we have over Texas when it comes down to that last-minute play, because Texas hasn't been exposed to that either. And so there's a lot of new variables in this game that both sides of the spectrum haven't had to deal with. And I would put my confidence in Venables and his preparation.
Real quick, I don't remember if it was Tattoo or General that asked when Gabriel went out last season. It was the week before. Went back and looked at the dates.
It was before, but I didn't know if we had to play or not, or had a bye week or not.
No.
Nope. It was TCU was October 1st. Texas was October 7th.
Okay, and I think too that year, if Tua didn't have his head injury, I think that he might play. I think that he's playing. But that's just me. I don't, that's me just kind of guessing. I don't know anything about head injury, so I probably shouldn't be the one checking him out. What is?
Did we discuss who we think is going to get the most carries at running back?
Yeah, we kind of talked about that earlier. Chad and I were kind of on the same page that Major's probably going to get the start. Sawchuk is probably your number 2, and then Tawi's going to be a more short yardage goal line type of situation. But if anybody has any different opinions, go ahead.
I think you want Sawchuk to be the guy because he has that gear that we haven't seen it yet. I just, I'm stuck on Florida State from last year. I just remember seeing how he ran, and I want that back so bad. But also he had holes to run through, and if you can't get those during this game, it doesn't matter how much athleticism you have. If you don't have anywhere to run, unless you're Barry Sanders, I guess, then you're going to have a really tough go at it. General, Tattoo, what do y'all think? Anybody? Just curious.
I'm thinking obviously for first and second down, probably Marcus, but I think for passing downs, I really like Tawi for because obviously the defense knows that we need to pass for pass pro. Because he's just a linebacker stop right there. He did it, I think, 2 or 3 times versus Iowa State, what I remembered. Obviously, we want Sawchuk to be what he was at Florida State, but if his hamstrings aren't 100%, I don't see it. If this is the most vanilla job that they've done before, we were holding back, it'd be awesome. But I really think it's going to be 1 Marcus, 2 Tawi, 3 would be Sawchuk. But also, too, we still have Hollywood, if he could come in the game, and then also, too, Caleb Hicks. So I would love to see them, too. If just something with a spark. That's all we need.
Yeah, Khalib Hicks looks special. He really does. I'm thinking we'll see some Petaway, too. I think we're going to see some of what we saw that first game, where you're going to see him.
Yeah, that's right. We didn't see any Petaway last game.
What are we going to do at tight end? I saw Stogner get that catch. Am I crazy? I thought he was a really good weapon when we had him. Remember he caught those touchdowns against Oklahoma State when Rattler was here? And now it just seems, I don't know if he got too big at South Carolina or what, but it seems like he's struggling to really get separate. He did make a good catch last game, I guess. I shouldn't.
Yeah.
Expedited on Mitchell.
Like it's weird. I'm just saying, if you want to use Stogner, right, but then you throw 2 touchdowns, I think, to Blake Smith, where Blake Smith is more of a blocking tight end. So
I believe
maybe
I
he's
believe they
not. I don't
consider
know.
more the blocking tight end, but Sooner Nick, I see
Yeah.
your hand there. Go ahead, man.
I was just going to mention that I was checking out the stats, and Quinn Ewers' completion percentage to DG. DG is sixth in the country, and he is 31st, which means to me he's getting his yards from the deep balls. So then the only thing that makes me concerned with is Reggie Pearson. It's happened to him, I think, twice already this year, where I love the dog in him. I love the fact that he's ready to just, make an amazing tackle near the line of scrimmage. But a couple times this season, I've seen him bite on. To me in Tulsa, I think it was intentional. That play was just for him, where they bootlegged to the right and it made Reggie bite on it, and then that gave them a touchdown because they just threw over his head to the receiver that was open. So I'm a little concerned that might happen with the speed they have at wide receiver. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's a great point actually about the completion percentage and chunk plays. That I hadn't thought about that. That was good. Yeah, eye discipline. I think my dad's talked about it too before. It's just how important it is, especially when you're young, to not get because when you're young and in high school, especially if you're true freshman age, like Peyton Bowen and those guys are, you can look in the backfield, get beat, and you have the athleticism typically to catch up with the receiver you're guarding. You can't do that at D1. You especially can't do it against Texas because of the athletes they have. Jared, I'll go to you one second. I want to get to Jay Smith from Unfair real quick, man. Thanks for joining. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Joining
man.
us.
Thanks for having me. And honestly, to your point, you made a great point there. That's actually been, excuse me, my thing. I hate freshmen playing and starting, especially in secondary, because that's what Texas did to Caleb Downs at Alabama. They literally
Yes.
just baited him to come up to the line of scrimmage, and as soon as they got him to where they wanted him, launched it over his head every single time. Those deep plays were supposed to be what Caleb was supposed to stop, but he's not going to stop him because he's a freshman. You're playing with athleticism more so than intelligence. Now, don't get it twisted. Caleb is getting better now as the season has progressed. He's becoming one of their top defenders, but it takes time to catch on to that stuff. And yeah, you point out, you nail on the head, with Bowen, that's I think that's honestly why we have not started him at all this season yet. Is that not that he shouldn't start? It's more of a let's get you ingrained in playing it at a smarter level rather than just only using your athleticism. And you put him out there in certain situations, he's showing his butt out. But Pearson, I want to kind of point this out real quick, and I'm glad you asked me to speak and join or whatnot. Pearson had a hell of a game against Texas last year at Tech. He had an interception and everything. So keep that in mind. When Pearson shows up, he shows up his best in big games. This might be a moment where he actually shows out and tries to get them to bait him, and then he reverses that bait and makes a play.
I wouldn't mind to see him have a hit early in the game, sort of like he did the Arkansas State game. I don't like penalties, but something that shows, Oklahoma's not here. We're not last year, we're not going to be this team that you're going to come in here and be more physical than. I love that first Arkansas State. Now, granted, we were up by, however many points we're up. I might be more mad if we're tied, and, it's the first quarter and we get those. But what do you think?
Make those receivers make business decisions. Yes, I 100% agree with you there. That against Iowa State, that was Key Lawrence's opportunity, and we got greedy. We thought that, oh, this team sucks. We're going to destroy them. Let's go ahead and try to just get as many interceptions as possible. No, in that moment, Key should have made that receiver make a business decision and never want to go across the middle again. I'm hoping that Reggie does that to Xavier Worthy as well as Jonte Cooks and whoever else for Texas that wants to go across the middle. Hit them in the throat, show them that you mean business, and then next time they go across the middle, they're going to be looking around like, okay, where's that dude at?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too with picks. It's like, well, I guess we're gonna let that soapbox. Jared, go ahead, man.
Oh, you're good. I kind of talked about it earlier, and I think we maybe briefly spoke on it. But I was talking with a guy at work about it who's a big OU fan as well, and I got a feeling that Levy hasn't shown all of his cards yet, because when I was listening to Gabe and Teddy talking about how Iowa State was showing different schemes against Oklahoma, and you could kind of see it on the field. There was a little bit of confusion early on, not necessarily on the big plays, but just scheme wise, that Iowa State hadn't shown what they've been using all year. I just wonder if Levy's probably got something like that cooked up for specifically for October 7th.
I think Levy's going to have some stuff that we never even get to. Because think about this. I mean, we talk about how the tight end was our quarterback a lot of the time last year. That stuff he dialed up with having Farouk, with having tight end back there, Brandon Willis. That took. I mean, those are schemes you have to come up with and implement throughout the week. It's not like you just throw those in before game. So and you have to know how to develop that, how to develop the run, the blocking scheme for it. And he was going to have that in, I think, even if Gabriel would have been healthy, because that's stuff you got to know, you got to be working on for a while. I think you're going to have some stuff in scheme wise. I think Levy will be in his bag. I really do, because I think he hears the hate too, as much as they try not to. That they are only doing this against teams that they should beat. And for me, I just think that it's such an opportunity for those coaches to really show that they are who just for the old phrase, they are who we thought they were. So that's kind of what I've been thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, when I see the way that Levy's been coaching, especially at the running back spot, man, fortunately we just ain't got the backs right now. It just ain't it. And I don't anticipate him even leveraging them much in this game. I mean, we're going to probably try to run because we have to establish some sort of run. But, a lot of us thinking that, we're going to finally come out of our shell. Probably not. Unless Salchuk is like more confident in that hammy, then I don't see it happening. Barnes most likely won't get any touches because of that toe. BV already said that it's not healing the way they wanted it to. And the good thing is he's still young, so he'll be back next year to be able to really show out. But if we got to get Salchuk going, and honestly, we probably need to run a lot more Tyree in between the tackles and then let Major catch some passes because he does really well in the flat. He can make people miss, but I forgot who mentioned. I think it was Gabe that mentioned this on Oklahoma Breakdown that Major is too big to be just being able to be taken down with one-arm tackles like that. Like, he's just too massive of a dude. I don't know what it is about balance or something, but he's getting taken down a lot easier than I would expect. I thought that dude would run people over at least into the.
It is kind of odd that he is getting that a lot of our receivers I feel like are getting shoestringed. And I don't know what that is. Also, we brought up earlier the fact that, you're going to have PJ out there, obviously, but you're going to have a healthy R. Mason Thomas, which I think is going to be, I think you'll hear his name a couple times, if not for sacks, at least for pressures. I mean, because he's supposed to be the guy that everyone talks about being, the next great rusher at Oklahoma, which I'm all for. If you can have him on one side and PJ on the other and David Stone in the middle, you would have, you're starting to develop a defensive line that can win you a national championship, which is really exciting. Go ahead, or St. Nick, actually.
On the running backs, I was just going to see if I can't remember is Hicks hurt. We heard so many great things from especially Gabe about how Hicks looked, and it's just like it just disappeared. I'm not saying we should hang our hat on a freshman running back, not at all. I'm just really curious as to if he's even going to be an option or is he hurt.
Jay, do you have any info on that? I haven't really.
I believe we saw him. I don't think it was Iowa State, but I think we did see a little bit of him late Cincinnati.
Tulsa.
I have to go back. Tulsa. Tulsa, I think was the last time we actually saw him. That's the game. It doesn't. I agree with you. We shouldn't hang our hat really on a freshman like that. And unless you're Adrian Peterson and you're going to run for 1,900 yards, then you just throw that dude out there. You make him run. But we haven't even had a freshman to go out there and really just pull out 100 yards in any of their opportunities either. So between him and Smothers, man, it's one of those you just kind of – the running back by committee, I hate to say it makes sense for right now because – everybody seems to fall after one defender touches them, and it's not what we're used to. We're used to backs. We're used to a patient runner like a Kennedy Brooks, Samaje Perine, especially when you're sizey to be able to take your time, find the hole, and boom, shoot through it. We don't have that right now, or at least yet. It must be something with comfort as far as post-injury or something. We just don't have that yet, and I hate that we don't. Because that's something that Texas can't exploit. Now, granted, they can easily overcompensate for it and say that, we're going to, they're never going to run the ball, so focus more so on pass. And then we run it down their throat and, we make it happen that way. That is always a possibility because some teams will overcompensate and come in there a little too cocky. So I'm hoping that the running backs are ready to go ahead and just be prepared to run. But I want to see more Tyree Walker at this point, if you want me to be honest.
That's why I think we didn't see Tyree Walker. I think they've been resting him. He's been, he did a lot of ground and pound for us this season so far. I think his body probably need a little bit of rest for the Texas game, and that way he can hit that hole the way he's supposed to hit it.
That's a fair point.
Go ahead, Jace.
What I was going to say is Marcus, like he said that he'll be, he can't make it tonight, but he'll be on the Tuesday after the game to go over his thoughts. So
Who? You cut out for me.
Marcus.
Oh, okay.
Marcus.
Gotcha. I was trying to get Marcus Dupree on. He had mentioned he might be able to make it, but he wouldn't be able to today. So we'll try to get him back on next Tuesday if we get him up. But for me, whenever you're a freshman, Dad, let me ask you. I don't know if you ever coached running backs, but you're familiar with the schemes. I think whenever you're dealing with true freshmen, unless you're dealing with like what Jay said, an Adrian Peterson type, or a guy like that, it's so much more than just running the ball. It's setting up your lineman's blocks. Even it's understanding your responsibilities in pass defense in the pass game, where you're supposed to be in check downs. Is that kind of what you think they might be waiting on for those true freshmen?
I do. I think the game's a little fast for them,
Yeah.
but and it'll slow down. But we get frustrated because we want these guys in the game. Some of us protection, they got to be able to protect. They've got to understand, the protections up front. But just knowing the plays and the games when it slows down for them, that's when we're going to see Sawchuck hit that hole like he did at Florida State and those type of things. And because they're just going 100 miles an hour. And so they're just running up in there trying to make something happen instead of taking their time, reading the blocks in front, and really getting, like when you run the zone and you cut back, that's something that an experienced running back does really well. When you run the counter, you've just got to slow down and let it develop, and then you stick your foot in the ground and you drive it upfield. So that's what's going on with some of those freshmen, I think, is they're just, the game's a little fast, timing's a little off. And as the year goes on, they're not freshmen anymore. They've learned and they'll get a lot better.
Jay, what do you think about this Gabriel Ewers matchup?
This is going to be fun. So, as mentioned before, Quinn does a really good job of getting the chunk yards. And Sarkisian is a master when it comes to setting up schemes to really bait people into stuff that they don't want to do. Now, granted, the good thing is our counterpoint punch to that is that BV is infamous for being able to counter a lot of those baits and be able to get its players in a position to know, hey, this is what that bait's going to probably look like. So if there's anything I'll say in this game, I've already predicted I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. At most 28 for the winner in the game. 28-24 is probably the score that I'm leaning the most on. Right now, OU, but I wouldn't be shocked if Texas did that and we saw them again in the Big 12 championship. But this game is going to come down to the defense. Which defense is going to be the most disciplined and not going to get exposed on big plays? Now, I think DG has a better chance because I think our wide receiver room is a little bit better than theirs. We have a little bit more speed. Quinn has a better deep ball, but Quinn also takes a lot of chances. And he will rely on his arm strength more than anybody I know. And if we do a good job of disguising coverages and forcing him to throw passes that he shouldn't and make him make mistakes, we need to make him look like he did against Oklahoma State last season. That game, he was 19 for 49 and 3 interceptions. We need to make him think that he can throw passes that he shouldn't and start picking them off. If we disguise everything defensively perfectly, we can do that. So that battle is going to be fun because I know that DG is going to be probably a little bit more cautious in this game, which I guess is a good thing. I kind of want a little bit more of a reckless Baker Mayfield type out of Gabriel in this game, kind of like he was doing against Iowa State. I want him to go out there and take some shots. I want him to do those type of plays. I want him to try to truck somebody in the end zone again. I want that type of moxie out of him this one because if he can do that, then that secondary, because that Texas secondary is susceptible to deep passes. They bust coverages quite often. We saw that with Kansas. Bean was able to get a couple of plays here and there. If we can exploit that as well with enough disguised by Levy and get the receivers out there, get Brendan Thompson deep and just launch it to him and make him run underneath it. It's going to be a fun matchup. I think it's going to be all about defenses in this game.
I 100% agree, and I've made the point before where I think one thing that holds DG back is, and you hear it with Levy after he post game in all of his interviews. The first thing he always says is, "I thought he did well. He was safe with the ball." And for me, it's I almost don't. Not that I don't want you to be safe. I'm not saying that, but for lack of maybe a better way to put it, I want you to be a little risky. Like if you throw an interception, but you're trying to make a play, I can handle that over you just taking, these, never taking a risk, and all of a sudden our offense stalls out. At least give them that thought of, he'll take this shot down the field, and then you let your receivers make plays, and all of a sudden doubt starts creeping in. For me, I want to see, like you were saying, that DG that's got a little bit of, like he had against, a little bit of swagger to him, I guess you could say. And I think if he can do that, man, it's going to be a good day for OU for sure.
Yeah, I agree. That's what's needed. Is you don't need him to take, like you said. It's hard to say. It's like, I don't want you to be too risky where you're making mistakes, but I'd be okay if you were risky making a mistake. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, as long as it's a deep pass and it's technically a quote unquote punt, I'm not gonna be mad at you for that. But at the same time, I want you to be careful. While at the same time, I want you to take.
Jay, what were you saying, man? I think somehow it got muted. I don't know how that happened. I
Yeah,
might have
that's
spoken
magical. I love
accidentally.
how it muted me. No, I think he's playing an extremely disciplined game of football right now, and that's not something we're, what I'm saying, used to. We're used to quarterbacks being a little bit more risky, and he's doing his best to not throw awful passes. Now, I mean, he's had some bad ones, but every quarterback does. I actually watched Caleb Williams throw one against Colorado on Saturday where he literally overthrew the wide receiver by like 4 yards. It's like, dude, that's a touchdown. Everybody
Right.
does it. But at the same time, man, he's doing a good job of making sure that he's not fully the cause of us losing games. And I want him to go out there and be the reason why we win games. That's a very tall task, but I think he's capable.
And I think he has to be, especially if our run game can't get going, and because I think people forget how important the run game was in past Red River wins. It's been vital. We rushed for, I think, like 330 in 2021, and 2019 we had like 275. When we run the ball well, we usually win this game, and I'm hoping that maybe, and that includes DG running it as well. You see him, and Venables mentioned it in his press conference, how much they have more depth now, and so they're not afraid to let him run the ball. And he's got some wheels, man. He's deceptively fast, I think, and quick. And I think that really does a lot in terms of getting the defenses to play a little softer, not fire as quickly as they normally would. And especially when you don't have a run game that's really dominant right now, having a quarterback that can at least make them think about especially on the RPO or on the RPO plays, having a quarterback that can do that is, I mean, it's huge, because now you're bringing a whole different element to it.
Agreed.
Colton, what do you got?
Yeah, I just had one quick wrap-up question for Coach Smith. Coach, we kind of talked briefly about OU's offensive struggles on the line, about how they're not really getting to the second level, having some hard times with their G&T that we've seen so far. I just want to take a look at it from like the other side of the ball. If you were scheming Oklahoma with that offensive line like they are, with the ability to get the quick ball out, but struggling with a run, are you loading the box? I mean, are you sending guys? Are we changing the front? What would you be doing? What do you think we could expect?
Well, I would load the box, but my thing is, if I'm going to put pressure on DJ, because he did it twice against Iowa State, he threw two, he throws a bad ball every now and then when he gets a little bit of pressure. So, and you got to realize in Iowa State game, he stood back there and stood there for a long time and got to really survey the field and make some really good throws. So my big thing, if I'm in Texas, I'm going to say, hey, if we can get pressure on him, I think we can get him to throw a bad ball, and maybe we can get an interception out of him. That's what's got to stop with our quarterback, is when he's getting pressure, he's got to make really good decisions with the football. And if I'm Texas defense, I know that's there. They've seen it. So they're going to obviously stop the run, and they're going to be confident. They're going to think, well, we're going to stop the run and make him throw, so we're going to get pressure on him and make DG make a bad decision. So that's what I would go into the game, because I feel confident as a Texas defense. I'm saying, hey, we're going to stop the run. We're going to make him throw. I know they got some great receivers, but we're going to get pressure on him and make him make a couple bad decisions, and hopefully that'll turn into points for us and change the game.
And if you're OU, you're thinking the same thing for yours.
Exactly. Isn't that funny? We're kind of the same. I know Texas has some really good players here and there, but so do we. And we got some
Yeah.
dynamic players on offense, and we do on defense. So it's going to be a fun game to watch. And like I said, whoever gets pressure and makes the mistakes early or late in the game is going to change the game. And it could come down to a field goal. That's happened before. And then I think we're going to see each other in the Big 12 championship game for who at the end of the year anyway. We're going to see them twice.
Right. Yeah. I agree. It's almost. Would y'all rather lose the game Saturday? I don't know if it's a good question to ask. I think it's an obvious answer. I mean, you would rather lose Saturday but win Big 12 than vice versa, because if you go 11-1 Big 12 champs, you're probably in the playoff. Am I crazy to think that?
You're not crazy to think that at all. And I think the intriguing thing about this is that if we end up being 1-1 this season against each other, and if both teams run through their conference, depending on how things shake out with the pack, because that's going to be basically they're going to kill each other. The ACC's only got one team, which would be Florida State, and the SEC is kind of struggling on a team outside of Georgia really right now, and Georgia's getting the benefit of the doubt because they're the two-time defending champs. There's a chance you can have two Big 12 teams in the playoffs. Like, that's not far-fetched to think. But in order for that to happen, Oklahoma's going to have to win game one and potentially lose the Big 12 championship to Texas, with both teams ranked in the top 3 to 4, because people are going to show a lot more respect to either one of the two teams going up. Now, Oklahoma could potentially crawl back into the top in the playoffs with a very close loss. Heck, if we barely lose to Texas, if it's like a field goal game, winning field goal game, we could move up in the polls. So don't be surprised if that happened as well. So no, but if I was to answer that question, I'd rather win the regular season game. I want to embarrass Texas, but we're not going to be able to do that this year in theory. If our defense turns up, though, that would be amazing. But at the same time, I don't see that happening. But I would like to embarrass Texas to start the season. I'd rather have this and then potentially lose the Big 12 championship. That probably wouldn't bother me as much.
Let me ask you all this. I think this is an interesting question. What do you think would be better for the team to get starting the game? A quick 3-and-out, maybe with a sack or something, or a drive from 75 yards, you go methodically down the field and score a touchdown?
I think we need the drive.
I think I agree.
Yeah, drive. I'm here for the drive too. We need an actual drive.
Yeah, and OU seems to be better at doing that than Texas. Texas doesn't seem to put together good sustaining drives. So I think if OU can come out and do that, that's the game we want.
Question is, can we get a turnover within the first couple of possessions?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you get a turnover early, and it was like my dad was saying. It's momentum, it's field position. It's why Texas, it's not rocket science to see, but it's why Texas beat Bama like they did. They got 10 points on going 35 total yards. One was a return to the 5, the other was to the 30, and if you don't do that, and Bama has a guy that could throw, like I said, a fade route up the sideline, which Milrose struggled with right now, they win that game. But it's ifs and buts and stuff like that. But I think OU has a chance to really be the team that can kind of put that kind of pressure on them more so than any other.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see us try to get, pick off a pass from Ewers early and just see how he responds, because, you've seen in the past sometimes that whenever he gets down early, he gets down on himself. And so if we can do that and kind of inflict that pain to him early, that might give us a chance to get on him in the first half. And like we talked about early in this conversation, is nobody wants to be a second half team against Oklahoma this year. And I think we've proved that. And I think, if we can just get a turnover, I mean, like we've talked about before, I think that's going to be huge for the game. And it may just be one. and that one may be whoever wins the game.
Yeah, and it's so funny to me that people want to talk about they just they go at the Iowa State. I shouldn't say they, but the Texas fans I've talked to, which some have been actually obviously like every fan base, some of them are pretty good, but the ones I talked to that are back and forth, it's yeah, well Iowa State wasn't good. It's like well Iowa State's defense always causes teams problems because it's so unique in how they run the scheme, and to see OU do what they did against them in terms of scoring 50 and scoring 40 in one half. And we kind of took our foot off the gas that second half, in my opinion, after we came out and scored immediately after halftime. Seeing that was really, really, I think, big for our offense. And then you see our defense come out, not allow a touchdown, only allow I think 90 yards or 89, some of that sort in the second half. After kind of
93.
93. After kind of getting those busts, where if you saw those busts last year, you would see that slide. It's just a completely different team, and that's why I think we're all so excited. Is we've seen that because we've watched every game. I want the rest of the country to know that, because even when I hear like these quote unquote experts, which I know they have a lot of teams they're covering, they can't be as in depth with all of them as we are with OU. You just see them forget some of the differences we have. Like Bothroyd for me, and my dad's talked about him a lot. Like Brothroyd for me is huge because he's so good at setting edges, knowing assignments, and not only that, but spacing on his alignments. He's great at, and that just sets the defense up to be successful. Go ahead, Jay. My bad.
Oh no, you're good. Keep going.
No, I thought I interrupted you there for a sec. No, I was just making that point was like having a guy like Bothroyd that is first off experienced, an older guy that and there's something to be said too about older players not wanting these young guys, and Texas has some older players, but still not being one of the older guys and not wanting to get shown up, and I think that's going to pay dividends for us this year for sure. I think Trace Ford will have a good game as well. I think he's going to be a surprise guy off the edge, personally, but.
No, I agree with you. I think the defensive line is going to be the thing that's going to shock everybody the most. It seems like our players are going to be turned up even more for this particular game. They want this. Everybody can taste it. And we walked into that Iowa State game, and we really did overlook them to start the game. And that pick six did not help. I talked about it on the other space, and I've said it ad nauseum. That pick six was the worst thing to happen for us in that Iowa State game. And yeah, it sounds weird to say that out loud, but as soon as we did it, it was like, oh yeah, this team sucks. We're going to go ahead and destroy them, and everybody let up. And then you give up big plays, and you're like, oh, let's tone it down. Let's lock in, make it happen. We probably could do that against Texas too, but I don't anticipate it. If we get a turnover early and we score quickly, like if we get like a pick six or a fumble recovery, something like that, a strip sack for a touchdown or something, and we really get worked up, I think this team will actually stay locked in on this one and be like, no, they have the capabilities of coming back. We've got to make sure that we keep them on edge. I'm just hoping that, I hope that as Sooner fans, we don't freak out the first couple possessions. I don't think it'll be a reason. I can see a lot of 3-and-outs to start. I really can. I truly think it's going to be a defensive battle like years past. Well, years ago, back in the early 2000s type. Now, I would love for us to go out there and beat them 63-14 again. That would be beautiful. So we can have a mirror image of what happened in 2000. But I don't expect us to get that fortunate. But hey, we can wish, right?
Yeah, that'd be pretty sweet. Go ahead, St. Nick.
Touch base on that. I'm hoping what we see is that OU just jumps out right out the gate on top of them. And that's going to change Texas's game plan, right? So they're going to have to go to the pass more than they normally like. And that's when the turnovers are going to really even increase, or at least the chances for it. I have OU, my prediction is going to get 6 scores, and we're going to have 31 points. And I have Texas getting 5 scores at 19 points. Shock everybody. 1 touchdown and 4 field goals. And that's if their field goal kicker. I want if you listen to Sarkisian's presser on Monday, it was so funny. He touched base on that statistic I mentioned earlier about his team not being able to get a score once they're inside the 40. They got some, but they're 85th in the nation in it. And so he talked about his field goal kicker missing from 47 and 52. So they're only going to get 19 if their field goal kicker is on. I think OU is going to go out and let the nation know that The statement was made, and
Man,
respect is due.
if y'all in the banner, I put Sooners Saint Nick. If you don't follow him, give him a follow because he posts things like I put in the banner where he goes over kind of key statistics in big games, and you look at those differences, and I mean, obviously, football math isn't really a thing, and each game is different, especially this one. But OU is looking like they could really pull a quote upset for people that aren't familiar with the team, in my opinion. And obviously, we're all hoping for that.
Yeah, we look
Well,
like a
yeah,
way.
there's the human element, right? This game has a huge human element, so that's why sometimes you throw them out the window.
Right. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I was like looking at these numbers, man. That statistically we look like the better team. Like as long as we just play at the level that we know that we can, because I don't think that Texas has better talent than us. I think they have talent. I don't think they're better. And I think all it is about executing. And that's the beauty of having a coach like BV. That's the focus. The focus is on the little details, executing on the little things, and it's going to lead to bigger things. And this team is brought into that. We've seen it. We've seen them actually make adjustments. I mean, the second half of all games, we looked light years better than we have in years past, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And that's very interesting that, when they don't score very well, past the 40, and honestly, that's our biggest strength. We ain't let nobody score in the red zone. Y'all know we ain't gave up no red zone touchdowns this season. We've been stopping teams. We force teams to kick field goals or they don't score touchdowns on us really like that. We 20-20, we struggle. Past that 20, we lock in. And if we make it to where Texas, if they can get to that point and they struggle, we'll win this game by a lot.
Right. And I hate to keep asking my dad these things, but it's for those that know, my dad's coached defense for like 30. He was a D coordinator and stuff for 30 years at basically every level except for the NFL. Coached at OU, coached in the Red River Rivalry. He talked about that earlier. But Dad, what do you think? What is it about that defense? Where is it just the smaller field, the shorter field? It's more condensed, so therefore, they're the lanes aren't as big. They're able to be more assignment sound. 20 out when they're inside the 20 versus 20-20, and then also Venable's defense. He has a lot of blitzes that he runs, and I remember you telling me when I was younger, you did the same sort of things, and you got that from I believe Washington. They kind of started that whole blitzing scheme that Venables used, and that you kind of mirrored at the different levels.
Yeah, at University of Washington, that was a long time ago. But that I've always been that kind of defensive coordinator, is bringing the heat, and I just love that. But Venables, man, he's I love what he does. I mean, he's just bringing the heat and getting after them. But it is condensed. I think it's, sometimes we think it's easier to score, from the 40 in, but sometimes it's not, because you don't have to cover as much field, and everything's is condensed down, so your DBs have a better chance of making plays. They don't always do it. It looks like sometimes it's easy, but it's not. And but that's probably what's going on with Texas sometimes. I think they press a little bit when they get there because they know that's a stat. We know it, they know it, and so that's kind of what's happening. And a lot of times defenses will play vanilla, and when they get it to the 40 in, that's when they start putting a lot of pressure and making that quarterback throw the fade route or whatever that he chooses to do, and it causes the offense's problems at times, but not always.
Yeah, got you. I was just curious. Go ahead, Andrew.
What I find to be really funny is, a lot of these, like Jay was mentioning, the statistics, kind of seemingly giving us a bit of an edge in certain areas and whatnot. And yet, almost every single Texas fan I've talked to so far has said the words, and I quote, "There is zero path to victory for Oklahoma on Saturday. Not even a chance." And it's just like wild to me. And I'm like, look, I recognize we have some holes. We've had some issues here and there in certain things. And I think there's parts of both teams that their weakness is the other team's strength, right? And so I just find it really interesting that, like, the delusion
of the fact that they just think they're going to just run us out, like they did last year, basically. And look, I'm not trying to say that we're going to win or that I think we're going to or that it's a guarantee or anything like that. Like anything can happen in this game, literally anything. So, but yeah, like that's just been a wild thing for me. Just looking at a lot of the numbers, that people are putting out, and it's insane to me.
Yeah, I think people really don't want to believe that Oklahoma's improved like they have. I don't think that they want to. I think the turnaround for a lot of people, especially in national media, they don't want to. I don't know why, but I think they just aren't believe. They don't want to believe that something can happen that quickly. And I also think that if you're Texas, I pray you have that
See,
idea that we're not any different, that you're going to be run
I
over.
don't think that particular thing is why, because otherwise it wouldn't be fawning over Dion this year, right? So
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
it's just not.
that's
It's
fair.
not. I I think they just genuinely want Lincoln Riley to mean so much that the loss of him is why we can't replace him. That's the only thing I can think of for a lot of them. And then a lot of other national talking heads honestly just have always had biases against us, always, and that's fine. But it's just really annoying that we continuously take the bait, especially now that Twitter's paying them for impressions and they do it on purpose now.
Yeah, we bite. We're the worst when
Hey,
it comes to that, and Sooner fans. I love y'all, guy. We're awful.
we
will
are the
bite
second
on
worst,
any.
second most easily triggered fan base in college football.
Wait, who's worse than
Tennessee,
us?
my man. Tennessee.
I don't
Now,
know,
maybe not on
man. I
Twitter,
mean,
but I guarantee the Tennessee message boards are indescribable.
that's a fair point. Touche. Their message boards are bad. It's a cesspool.
That's what I'm saying. They
I
may
mean,
not be.
all message boards are cesspools, but theirs
Yeah,
is
well,
bad.
we have more active Twitter users, but their fans are worse.
Hey,
And we always
Andrew
fall for
Shepard.
the.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, sorry.
Andrew
No,
Shepard,
no.
if I can get you up here, Andrew, request, man, I'd like to hear from you. Go ahead, Jay. My bad.
Oh no, you're good. I was going to say, yeah, we seem to always find the barstool stuff too, and they know that that's going to trigger impressions, and so they will quickly throw out as much as possible and go and just dog on Oklahoma as much as possible because we know that they know that we're going to come in, we're going to throw numbers at them, we're going to give them statistics, we're going to show them just how wrong they are, but they don't care. That just means that you just gave them an
I mean,
impression. We
Brandon Walker
fall for
wore an Iowa State shirt on Saturday.
Troll. He knows
Yeah,
how to trigger.
I mean, the
It's bad.
ultimate troll is Cowturd. Like he absolutely knows what he's doing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when
Well,
he was calling Brent, Bren, or Brent, whatever it was. I
God,
mean, it's like,
yeah.
dude, Ben, my
To
bad,
be
Ben Venables.
to be fair, Cowturd has a legitimate reason to hate Oklahoma. We
Yep.
took his Supersonics.
yeah,
Yeah,
but the NBA
absolutely.
team has nothing to do with college football, though.
Well, you
Yeah,
got to
but
hate
he's going to
Oklahoma.
associate
It's an
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma thing. It's just Oklahoma took his team from Washington State that he was raised around and had the audacity
I
to put it
didn't
in the middle of
realize
Oklahoma City.
that, but like, man, if that's why he hates us, I can honestly somewhat respect it because I respect Petty.
Yeah, I think that's what it is because he's from a small town in Washington. He went to college at a D2 or D3 school out there. That's where he's got his broadcasting degree or whatever, and started working in like Vegas. I follow Colin. I appreciate some of his takes, and I do appreciate his petty as well because it's hilarious that he really would take it that far. But yeah, he hates
Well,
Oklahoma, just the
and
state in
honestly,
general.
like on one level, you have to admire the empire he's built, right? Like he knows how to do what he does, and he does it well. It's just unfortunate that he hates us and says things that is triggering to our fan base. And even though I don't follow him, I don't see any of his stuff. I just see it because other people take the bait, and I'm like, come on, guys, come on.
Hey, let me go to Andrew, man. Let's hear about the radio, man. How was it? How was Teddy and all the guys, dude?
Last Saturday was fun, man. We had a great time in there. Um, put a lot of points on the board, and um, defense locked it up in that second half. So it was a good time.
Are you going to are you when do you guys head down to when do you guys head down to Texas?
Um,
We all go down Friday?
yeah, most of us go down on, well, some of us will go down on Thursday. I'm going down on Thursday. I normally go down on Friday, um, with our crew, but I arrange some fun stuff to do with on like Friday morning or whatnot with some neighbors or whatnot. So yeah, so we'll get in. Most of our guys will get in on Friday. T-Row has to be there Friday morning, for his remote and whatnot. So yeah.
Man, it'll be fun, man. I'm excited to see or hear y'all. Um, I sometimes try to like to listen to the radio broadcast along with the TV if I can get it synced up, but
Yeah,
it's kind of difficult to do at times.
yeah, I hear you on that. Yeah, and like for anyone, you can go to like syncmygame.com. That's sort of the
Ah,
way to help with that right there.
I've
So
actually never
check
done
that
that.
out.
I don't know why. I never have.
Well, do it, man. Do it.
Well, and I think part of it is like, especially with the TV broadcasts now, they have like the rules analysts and things, so that's occasionally
Mm-hmm.
nice on the
Yeah,
replays. But I mean,
I hear you.
there's nobody like our radio crew.
I
I think, and
agree.
I'm not just saying this because Andrew's here and he knows we've talked about it before. Like, people don't realize we have like the best in total radio crew in the country. It's not just Toby, it's Chris, it's Teddy and Gabe and all those guys. Like, we are super spoiled. Like, the people I've heard talk about like Chris, like outside of like Oklahoma, like, man, the respect those guys have in their industry alone is awesome.
Well, we appreciate that, like, because I'm just thankful I get to do what I get to and hear hear everyone hear everyone's greatness, T-Row Plank and all the knowledge from Gabe and Teddy is just like no one else has a color analyst like Teddy to break down, coverages and how plays go quickly and everything. And then you have Gabe down on the sidelines, just same thing. So
I'm
let
always
me
looking
go.
forward to
Mies,
going
go
back.
ahead.
I always look forward to going back and watching the in the booth on Sooner Vision after the game, just to see, just to because it's fun. It's cool seeing the emotion in the booth, and then see the emotion while Toby's calling it or whatever, and it's just to see him come out of his chair all the time, right? I mean, he's up on his feet making the calls, and it's pretty.
yeah,
It's a lot of fun to watch.
yeah, he's a fan himself. So you know, he keeps things level, but at the same time, he's gonna cheer on his guys. And I think most of us over time have gotten more pumping our fists and whatnot, and so yeah, it's fun being up there, man. It's a great experience. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the game, man. A few thoughts just with everyone just chatting it up and everything. I'm interested on the injuries for Texas. Um, they're unfortunate because they like you want to play a team, full strength just to see how you do, but we'll see how if Sanders is available. I think he will, but he probably won't be 100%. had like a high ankle sort of thing on a run block. And then their cornerback Ryan Watts, who's an Ohio State transfer, he had a leg issue and came out. He was out the rest of the second half against KU. So if he's out, that's their starting corner. So he sort of plays toward the boundary, but um, he would be a big, loss for
From
them.
what I saw, Andrew, I didn't see Sark's presser, but some people said based off of the language Sark used that the corner is going to be out. I have other people saying that they believe he's probably going to try to give it a go, but
Yeah, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I think we
But
had a guy on earlier that I mean he said that he knew him, that they talked, and he said that he already said he was out. But also I think he said he was dealing with a hamstring issue, so I don't
oh,
know how
okay.
reliable the
So
source was. But
so for them, they have a freshman like in that spot, Malik Muhammad, and he's pretty talented, but um, just being a freshman, that's a big spot to sort of step in right there. So if we can get him into, if Libby can dial things up and put the pressure on them, I think we can hit the deep ball against them. Um, I do. I mean, their safeties are fairly, they're talented too, but um, if you get certain opportunities, one on one or whatever, I think we got the wide receiver room, and they've already showed it, So um, that's what I'm hoping. Um, it, we've got. I mean, first and foremost, we just got to stop the run. Um,
yeah,
we just have to. I mean, that's
yeah, I think we sell out to stop it, and let Ewers get, by doing that you get pressure on Ewers and you make them throw. But um, I'm gonna have to end this here in a second, guys. I've been on for about 2 hours and 20 minutes. I got reading for school tomorrow. I want to go through real quick and ask y'all's key to the game and then your predictive score, if I can start. Let me go first to Colton. What do you got?
Yeah, I think the key to the game is going to be if we can't get our run game going, it's going to be offsetting with our quick passes and open that up to our wheel routes on the outside, maybe get some screen game going. I think OU wins. I think it's a little bit lower of a scoring game than a lot of people think. I think we win 17-14.
Oh, what a score. All right, let me go. Actually, Andrew, let me go back to you. Key to the game and score.
I think key to the game is winning the turnover battle. If you can do that, you get extra possessions, chances to score. Um, right there, you don't have to do long drives or try to flip. You want to try to flip the field and get short field position to get some points on the board. So I'm gonna go, yeah, win the turnover battle. And final score, I'll say 31-28. OU.
Oh, it's a good score. Andrew, what do you got?
yeah, I think the biggest key to the game is weirdly not the biggest matchup of the game. I think the biggest matchup is our O line versus their D line for a run game, but I think the key is going to be stopping their run and forcing Quinn to throw. Um, and hopefully that pressure gets to him and we can get a turnover or two out of it. And I'm going to give my Hopium score. I think it's 27-20 OU.
Love it. St. Nick.
34-19.
Oh,
Ooh,
yeah, you gave it earlier, didn't you?
spicy.
Yeah, you went through it all.
Yeah,
Man, I
yeah.
like it. I like it. I like it. Meese, what do you got, man?
Well, since Shepard took mine, I'm going to go 30-27. I think it's again getting pressure on Ewers, creating turnovers.
Good job, Shep. Dad, what do you got?
I got 28-17 OU, and we're going to get a couple of INTs, and it's going to change the game.
You and Shep are on that turnover. Yeah, you mentioned that earlier, winning the turnover battle. And Jay, I'm gonna go to you, man. Thanks again for joining.
Oh yeah, no, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Chad. I'm in the exact same boat as everybody else. We need to get Quinn to go out there and play like he did against Oklahoma State. I think it's going to be a defensive battle. We're going to take care of the ball. They probably won't. If we can stop the run, we'll be good. But I think the key thing is really getting Quinn to make those turnovers. And we get that 28-24. Sooners take it to the crib.
28, love it. All right, mine is getting pressure defensive line wise. I think if we can establish ourselves that we're going to be able to handle their offensive line, that's huge. And obviously, all y'all's, I second those as well. But my final score is going to be 33-28 Oklahoma. I really, really do. I really
Taking
do
the
more than other
over.
years think that we have. Yeah. I think we're gonna go 33-28, man. I think that they'll hit us maybe for a couple deep, couple bomb touchdowns. Just I don't really know if I can explain why. I just have a feeling, but
See,
yeah, man, I really
my
do
thing
think we
with
have
that is
this of all
Quinn's.
years, man. It's gonna be a surprising. I think we're gonna surprise a whole lot of people, but I gotta go. I gotta get done some. I gotta get some reading. I wake up early for class. Again, Jay, everybody, we do this Tuesdays at 8. Sooner Spaces, man. Love hearing from all y'all. Hopefully, y'all can come catch us next week. Again, man. Every Tuesday at 8. Hope to see y'all next week. And Boomer Sooner.
Boomer Sooner.
Boomer
Appreciate you
Sooner.
guys being here.
Thanks for having me.
See
I'll check it out
ya.
again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chad.
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.